So I'm sure we're all well aware that Flash Player was not supported back in December of 2020. And with it went hundreds of thousands of Flash games that we used to play as kids when we were supposed to be doing our actual schoolwork in class. So unfortunately, a lot of those old Flash games are a lot harder to come by nowadays, and new ones aren't really being made anymore. It's kind of weird to think about the fact that a whole genre is sort of wiped out with that one decision. But that doesn't mean all hope is lost, or Flash games. A lot of these games and developers have moved to various platforms to bring some of our favorite games back, and even make new ones in certain cases. One of those Flash games being one of my personal favorites back when I was goofing off in class, Nightmare Tower, a Flash game released by Juicy Beast back in mid 2013, so later into the Flash game golden age, as it were. This game is genuinely really fun even today, though, essentially being the same concept as Toss Turtle style of games, just flipped on the y-axis. Only now, instead of just sort of launching your dude and letting him go on his way, going to grab a snack or something while you wait, clicking a couple of times to keep it going until it abruptly ends one way or another, now you're actively playing the entire time, where you have to bounce off various monsters while you climb to the top of this tower, saving various princesses along the way that each give you a different buff to an item, or a whole new one in some cases. The game starts out pretty slow with some basic dudes with no real challenge to them outside of aiming for them and dashing into them, making for a little relaxing atmosphere where you just kind of bounce for a bit and learn how the game works. Until suddenly, as you're climbing, you get enemies shooting projectiles at you and sticking spikes out to catch you if you hit them, there's these weird pigs that shoot fire, and these little wizard dudes. These wizards are the absolute worst. They just kind of hang around for a bit, charge a bunch of balls around them, and then have them float up at you in random assortments. Which doesn't sound too bad until you think of all the other enemies going at the same time and you can hardly see these guys because they're so tiny. And that's mostly it for the general gameplay loop. It's just launch into the tower, get as high as you can, and then either die from the various enemies or just die from going a little bit too slow for the game. And once this inevitably does happen, you'll get some gold based on how high you climbed up, or based on however many bags you got along the way. And then there's a staple of these types of games where you can spend that gold that you get to buy various upgrades for your character, and eventually, in this game's case, reach the top of the tower and beat the final boss. Which for some reason is a Rage Comic character, I think. You can tell this game came out in 2013. And as you keep buying these upgrades and reach certain benchmarks, you'll save these princesses that give you more items to make it a little easier along the way. Items like bombs that'll do damage to everything on screen based on how many upgrades for it you've gotten. Or these potions that give you different buffs based on how many of them you've bought in the shop, eventually turning you into an eldritch horror in the shape of a bison for a couple of seconds. And that's pretty much it for the main gameplay, really. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to beat, depending on how well you adapt to the game, or if you end up getting a godly run of some form. And once you beat the game, you unlock survival mode. And one achievement in particular that's genuinely hard even with all the best upgrades and items unlocked, reaching 100,000 meters, where you'll be dealing with all the toughest enemies from the start, and they progressively get more and more tanky as you get higher up, resulting in towards the end of these climbs hitting a point where even the most basic enemies take multiple hits to take out. This achievement alone took me over an hour to finally get, and I only got it because I got lucky, to be honest. But you can definitely get to a point in this game where it'd probably be pretty easy to do. There's a lot of movement to be had in this game, since you can dash down at enemies pretty quickly, so if you got into a rhythm, you'd easily trivialize a ton of enemies in this game for a long time. But I never got good enough to really do this, to be honest, in my 4-hour runtime. But for $4 on Steam, that's not really that bad, considering the kind of microtransaction-ridden hellscapes we're used to nowadays. Or you can even just play it on free on Congregate if you really want to. And that's probably the better option anyway, because the Flash version actually lets you play with your mouse instead of strictly with your keyboard. I don't really know why, but the Steam port seems to hate the mouse with a passion, since it doesn't even let you navigate menus with it. And also the Steam version can get kind of buggy if you play it for a particularly long amount of time in one sitting like I did. Overall, though, I loved this game as a kid, and I still love it now. And if you enjoyed the game back then, or even just enjoyed Toss Turtle style games back then, I'd give this game a shot if you're bored one day and want something to goof off with for a bit. Just like the good old school days. But that's about it for me. I'd say sorry for not uploading much outside of shorts lately, but that's kind of the normal right here for this point. I don't want to make that my outro. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one regardless. If not, that's fine too. Have a good day or night. You're awesome. Read the fine print of your quests to make sure you go into the monster infested towers you're meant to. Take care of yourself. Goodbye.